Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is Ariana. I have something to say, something to stream about my consciousness in terms of what I've been watching recently. I have sort of been feeling unmotivated in everything, and especially when it comes to watching movies, which is really sad because, I like that stuff and it makes me happy, and to find myself with no desire to do it. And when I do actually sit down and watch a movie, I find myself fighting myself to finish it. I don't know why that is. I don't know if maybe the idea and routine of quarantine has sort of begun to hit me and sort of sink in. Which maybe sounds silly considering that things are beginning to open up now, but it's this feeling of what I've gotten used to, which is not going to the movies, not being able to watch movies with friends, of nothing becoming the routine, of bed becoming the only place I want to be in sometimes, of not really feeling much of anything anymore, and movies not being able to change that. But like I said, everything's opening up. But are all these things that I got used to supposed to just go away now? And I guess that's why I'm making this video, because it's sort of like, that thing that people say that's like, if you got out of bed, that's an accomplishment. Which it is. If you found the strength to get out of your bed, to, make yourself some food, to leave your house, to just take a walk, you should be proud of that. And I guess because of my lack of motivation, I'm proud that I watched these movies. I'm proud that I was able to stop feeling sad or miserable for 90 minutes and enjoy something that used to make me happy and should still make me happy. So here are some movies that I've been watching recently, just some thoughts on it, some repeats, some first-time watches, so let's dive in. So I started off the month of May with the classic Vertigo, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. I really liked it, but after having seen the top 5, I think Rear Window is my personal favorite right now. But Vertigo was really interesting. I had no idea where it was going. I didn't know anything about the movie besides, James Stewart feels dizzy sometimes. One thing I really loved about Vertigo was there's this one scene with this woman who is very much in love with James Stewart's character, but alas, he is not in love with her. He is in love with the woman he was stalking. And there's this really beautiful shot of after she realizes that she will never get his love, she sort of just walks down the hallway quietly, and the camera just lingers on her walking away, and I thought that was stunning. So that was my favorite part of the movie. But I really liked it, but Rear Window's the one for me. So then on May 5th, I sat down with my boyfriend to watch all 3 of the Back to the Future movies because he had never seen any of them before. So we binge watched them. So we binged them all in one day, and that was a ride. That was honestly probably the most fun I've had in a day in a long time, which is what I'm saying, like this idea of watching movies should be fun. It shouldn't be a task, and I don't like viewing it as a task. So to watch all these movies, just to remember why Back to the Future is the classic that it is, you really just have fun with that movie. It was really cool to see their character arcs happen not years apart but right in front of your eyes. I'd never really watched Back to the Future with a sort of critical mindset. I'd only ever seen it like growing up with it, and well, I didn't grow up with it, but growing up watching it. So to really see how Marty has to not only help his parents go through a character arc in terms of, his dad's confidence, but also his own character arc with his ego. And I like that the movies never abandon Marty's personality traits. His personality traits don't take a backseat to the story. In the second movie, he loses his job because he gets called a chicken and he does something he's not supposed to do. So I like that the movie knows its characters and puts their issues alongside the story. So then I also forced my boyfriend to watch The Social Network. I don't know, with this movie's kind of just, I think it's well written in terms of structure. I like the way it sets up the story. I don't really know where it stands on college women. I feel like that could be a whole video, but the way it portrays college women is a bit ambiguous to me, but I feel like there's something there, whether it was purposeful or not. And that opening scene of watching Rooney Mara destroy Jesse Eisenberg is probably the last thing I want to see before I die. Andrew Garfield saying, "You better lawyer up, asshole," is the cream of the crop in that movie. I think the opening scene and the last scene of that movie are really fantastic. For the movie to start with him and his relationship with Rooney Mara and then end with him adding her or trying to add her on Facebook, I think is a really cool ending, and I like when movies sort of bring it around like that. I don't really have a lot else to say about that movie. You know, it did brown face. Then my boyfriend and I watched the documentary Have a Good Trip, Adventures in Psychedelics, and we were kind of disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting a lot more information on LSD and what it literally is and how you feel scientifically, but what it ended up being was a lot of comics and celebrities telling their stories about LSD and their experiences with it, and that itself would have been fine, except then the documentary started putting in like skits. It would cut back and forth between like funny skits of kids trying LSD, sort of like being a parody of PSA, you know, in the 90s. But it was just awkward. Like, I felt like the documentary never really found its footing. But I guess it's interesting if you want to hear, you know, a bunch of celebrities talk about their crazy stuff, which was fun. It's just, it wasn't what I expected, and I felt like it could have been a little bit stronger. But it was fine, you know. We laughed. Crazy stuff. Okay, so next I really want to talk about this movie because I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it since. Basically, the reason I had never really gotten into The Sixth Sense is because I gravely misunderstood its genre. For some reason, I was under the impression that it was like this really intense horror movie. I was never interested in seeing it. But when I tell you that that movie exceeded my expectations and I completely underestimated it, I'm not lying. I think a big reason as to why this movie is as great as it is the acting. Toni Collette never disappoints, and I only recently learned that she was in that movie, but she is just so unbelievable. I didn't even know the mom had such a big role. I knew nothing about, now that I think about it, I genuinely knew nothing about The Sixth Sense besides, you know, the two biggest things, I guess. But that did not ruin the experience of watching the movie at all. I really loved I haven't really cracked what it means yet because I really haven't put that much thought into it since, but the motif of statues in the movie, time, death, memories, all of the above, I don't know. It truly is just a really emotional movie. And even having seen it, knowing the plot twist, it didn't hinder the experience at all. So if you haven't seen it because, you know, it's overrated, just watch it. You know, why not? Just watch it. Okay, so then I watched this really bizarre movie called Down with Love. And it was basically La La Land before La La Land existed. Like, the similarities are uncanny, dude. So if you like La La Land, but are interested in something a bit more, I guess, whimsical and doesn't take itself as seriously as La La Land, I would definitely recommend Down with Love. There's two really standout sequences for me. One is basically they're on a phone call. There's like a frame that cuts them in half, and the lines sort of move so that they are basically a lot of sexual innuendos, visual sexual innuendos, and it's really funny. And then there's this other great scene with Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson's in this movie, so you know she's good.
I hate men. For as man crazy as I've been my whole life, I sure can't stand them. I think I'll just get married.
Overall, I feel like I have to watch this movie again because this is one of those movies that I felt myself fighting to watch because that's where I sort of fell into this whole not in the mood to watch movies phase that I'm in right now. So I feel like it's worth the rewatch, but I thought it was really fun and really weird and not what I expected at all. Next movie, Laggies. I watched this with my friend Kayla because if some of you haven't heard already, Lynn Shelton, who was the director of Laggies and many of the episodes of TV shows that you probably love, recently passed away, and I watched the movie Laggies that she directed with Keira Knightley and Chloe Grace Moretz. And it basically plays on the sort of stunted adolescent woman trope, but I don't think it really understand that trope because I feel like that trope is easily bad. If you don't execute it right, it just comes across as annoying or silly or borderline awkward. So she basically befriends like a 15-year-old and begins staying with her. There were a lot of good things about it. I thought the acting was pretty good. I love Keira Knightley, as I've said before. I like the story it wants to tell, and there are some really good pieces of dialogue that I really enjoyed about getting older and their connection, and I really get it. I just feel like at times it's not believable and it gets a bit annoying. And I didn't really like the ending. It didn't really resolve anything. It sort of just like, you know, put a little bow around the ending and thumbs up and dipped. Not my favorite, but I think there's something really genuine and important about it. So that's it for movies that I've seen, you know, aside from New Girl, but I've been watching New Girl every single day of my life for the past, 4 years. I hope if you are in the same place as me and struggling to connect or feel the passion or desire to watch things recently, that you find that spark again and that you try to rekindle it, little by little. Don't be so hard on yourself. I'm trying not to be, but I'm not really good at that. Just try to remind yourself of how great a movie is when it does connect with you. Maybe watching it with other people would contribute to the experience. That's what movie watching should be, an experience. So I hope you guys watch some really great movies. Thank you guys for watching.